Hi everybody, welcome to the Rambling Toffee podcast. I hope everybody's doing well this Monday. Um, it's I thought it was just going to be a quiet Monday. Just talk about the obviously the Leicester game on Saturday, the positives that came from that game, and also the negatives, obviously with the result. But yes, it was supposed to be a quiet day, and we have breaking news. So breaking news obviously broke in the 2-3 hours ago. The Friedkin Group, which I think a couple of weeks ago, I think it was announced that, well, through Bloomberg, announced that they had come back to the table and are interested in taking over the club at that point. Today, there was more meat on the bone, kind of, coming from Bloomberg as well, through the reporter for them, and also through a lot of reliable journalists like Alan Myers and the Bobble and Julia Ball from Radio Merseyside, all confirming that um, Freedom Group are close to an agreement and close to taking over the football club, which is absolutely fantastic news. And it was nice news to have this morning. Um, because at the end of the day, this has been a hot topic on this podcast and probably any other podcast out there on social media and everywhere. It's been ongoing, this takeover, and to get the right people in. We've had obviously the issues right back from 777 Partners, from MSP at one point, from um, obviously the Freedom Group the first time round, obviously John Texter as well. And it's just great news that hopefully, fingers crossed, still work to be done, obviously, I'm guessing. Uh, Obviously, they got to get approval from the Premier League, from the FA, and from the Financial Conduct Authority to move forward. Hopefully, we might find out today that there's been an agreement. Hopefully, we might hear something from the club. Very rare that the club put any kind of statement out. They have done, obviously, with Freegan previously in June when it looks like that they're going to take over at that point in time. And we know, obviously, we all know what happened next with that. But yeah, obviously, the John Texter thing came in. Obviously, he had some sort of exclusive agreement with Mashiri regarding exploring taking over the football club. But he didn't have a full exclusivity, which means that uh, something like Freakin, something like the group like Freakin had exclusivity to actually do the due diligence and everything else to actually take over Everton Football Club. And obviously they've gone away and they've come back to the table. It's looking likely, fingers crossed. Again, of course, this takeover or the takeover Everton Football Club has been going on forever, and different groups and everything else, and all the debt and everything, all the shenanigans that has been going on, and the struggles to my mental health, and probably all you guys' mental health out there um, regarding it. Because for me, it's simple. Like everybody else, is that we want at the top end of the club, the people running the club, to be stable, the right people in place to do the right things to get this football club back to where it belongs. And I said not last week. I wasn't doing the podcast last week due to my condition again flaring up. But the previous week, as I mentioned, is that what I want for my football club is I want it to be the best club in the country. I want it to be challenging for titles. I want it to be in cup finals in Europe and being that club that it's supposed to be. We are a massive, big football club worldwide. Our fan base indicates that. And we've got a brand new stadium that is close to completion. We'll be moving it in there for next season, obviously. And, you know, all all the ins and outs of everything that has been ongoing for a long period of time now, can we finally get it resolved? Will it resolve quite soon? Will it be quite quickly? Hopefully, fingers crossed. Hopefully, we'll get a statement from the club. Hopefully, they'll say, yeah, this is back on. Hopefully, it'll be all sorted and agreed as soon as possible. Really, this is my feeling. We want to get into a situation where we get to January transfer window, January, if there is any money available. Obviously, if you believe what Alan Myers has put, that is it could mean that they're going to put an equity amount of income of around 400, 500 million pound into the club, which means that we will be a very, in a really, really good place. Okay, there's still going to be debt there, and there's still a lot of work, obviously, unless they've agreed something with the debt, the 777 A cap, and RM rights and media funding. We'll have to see on that front. But as I mentioned regarding, you know, my club and what I want to see our club. The history indicates it. We should be back up there. We should be in that echelons in the top six, top seven, top. Well, it doesn't matter. We want to be there. That's where we deserve to be. But as I go in a bit to talk about the game on Saturday and our start to the season, that is going to take a while to get to. And that's when I'm going to have the conversation. I'm going to talk about obviously Sean Dyche and Kevin Felwell and their futures and what I think is what the future should be. And I'm hoping will go down. But I'll get to that in a moment. But yes, it's great news. You know, hopefully it moves quickly. Hopefully we will get some good communication coming from the club, and also from Friedkin. They really talk or communicate to the fan base. They keep it to themselves and negotiate and do it the right way. Obviously, John Texter was, you know, did it his way, and rightly so. He's an owner, but he what he wanted to do, and it was great to hear, and it was nice to hear what he wanted to say and what he wanted to do with the club and how he wanted to take us back to that, echelons of where we should be. And it was great to see in that sense. But at the end of the day, if you look at him, he still has to sell his shares in Crystal Palace. And if it was going to be him going forward, this would drag on longer than up to November, as he mentioned when he was talking in that interview with Alan Myers, up to 30th of November. It could drag on through to December, and if we don't need it. What we need right now is these people coming in as soon as possible, Freegan coming in as soon as possible to do, to start structuring, getting the right people on board level, appointing the right people to start getting this club back to where it belongs, and stabilised in a way that we as fans don't have to think about the finances of the football club. We can think and focus on the team, the players, the manager, and everything that we want to have and what we want to see. We don't want to think about the chairman of the board. We don't want to think about the CEO. We don't want to think about what they want to say or what their job is to do. I think obviously yes, okay, in the early stages we want to know who they're going to be and we want to know what they're going to be doing. Yes, and the only thing that I would love to keep on seeing is like the naming rights to the stadium, new sponsors, new commercial opportunities, bigger opportunities to actually bring in more income, because obviously the stadium, when it's completed and when we move in, that's going to generate so much money, which is great. And that's why Friedkin Group, they took some time away, and basically it's because obviously the 777 and cap and the legal issues that's going on with that and regarding paying them and what that's all about, and everything regarding that. But they've done it before. They did it with Roma. They were going to take over and then they backed away and then they come back. What they see is very simple. They look at that stadium, they can see what it is, and they're coming back in. And I think they're thinking, right, where the club currently, the team's been, or where we are currently in the league, they're thinking, right, we need to get in. We need to get things started, stabilised, get the right people in. And this is when we go on to the game of Saturday and the start of the season that we've had, and regarding the manager and the director of football. So it's great news regarding Freakin. Hopefully we'll hear more. Hopefully it'll be as quickly as possibly can. So that was breaking news today, and it's great news. It's a positive news, which Everton of late not had much positive to talk about really, off the field or on the field, lately. So yeah, it's good news. So let's see where that takes us, in the next. I don't know how long it'll take. Days, weeks. Find out there's more meat on the bone when we find out more, if more stuff comes out over the next few days or so, as regarding that. So yes, so that's good news. But yeah, Saturday. So basically, Leicester away. Um, for me, it was 2 points dropped in my view, and my reasonings are we played well for 58 minutes, and we played well. And Lindstrom came in, of course, and McNeil playing in that central number 10 role, and Mangala coming in as well. And I just felt for that period of time, and this is my honest view, I didn't see the game fully live. I couldn't get a stream or couldn't find where to watch it, so I listened to it. And the football for that period of time was really, really good football going forward, creating opportunities. Lindstrom is getting better in my view. I thought his performance was better, and he's just going to get better and better, hopefully. And he's just finding his feet. So it's great to see that kind of performance from him. He had opportunities again, but he didn't have his shooting boots on, obviously. But he got himself into the positions. His movement was really, really good, especially for the Ndiaye goal, where there was good movement. Ashley Young, whatever we think about Ashley Young at the moment, that pass to Ndiaye was a really, really good pass, and he had an okay game. My mindset at this moment in time is that, in the future, hopefully Patterson is coming back for the Palace game, but he just did a job. It was okay. He you know, didn't pull up trees or anything like that. And I know what people think. And my opinion of him is I don't think he should be playing for Everton Football Club personally. He's 39, nearly 40. He hasn't got the pace as he used to have. And okay, it's Leicester. So think of it this way: we're playing Leicester as well, who are not a very good team personally. Um, they've only got Vardy as a player that you can be a bit worried about. But for the game itself, yeah, he just did his thing anyway. So they just got through it basically. That's what I'll talk about actually on this on this occasion. But but the forward line and Dai, who's getting better and better in his gameplay. His movement is getting better. His movement, he's just like the linchpin, and he's just like, I'm being honest here. I'm just doing it on. We played Leicester. He's not Messi. He's not the next Messi. He's not um, De Bruyne. He's not any of the top players in the Premier League that mostly play for Man City or your Arsenal or your Liverpool or those clubs up there. He's not. But for us, and at this moment in time, he's doing really, really well, and he's playing really, really well. And he's going to be picked week in, week out for the performances he's putting in. So that, and Lindstrom, everyone was a bit concerned. He was slow to, settle in when he has played obviously in the League Cup and everything else. And but he's got better. His performances is getting better. His shooting boots hopefully will get better as well. We'll start seeing what he can do when he gets them opportunities. Obviously, in the previous game in the League Cup against Southampton, I'm forgetting about that. Um, but he had two great opportunities, one on one with the goalkeeper, and he fluffed them both occasions. But he had a good game, and as simple as that. Calvert-Lewin was just doing his usual thing, but McNeil was linking around as well. So going forward, it looked really, really promising and positive. So to go one up, that wonderful movement and that goal was fantastic, and just everything about it and performance. And of course, the torrential downpour. And I was glad I wasn't. God, I saw later on. I saw how bad it was. It just continued raining and raining and raining. I thought the game was going to get called off, and it was both teams still playing really well in them sort of conditions. So kudos to them for that. But this is where the problem lies, and the reaction I was getting from people in the stadium who were there watching it and what I was hearing. And yes, the 10-15 minutes into the second half, Ndiaye was not, he was not creating as much as he had been in the first half. He was sapping his energy. Lindstrom was still playing well, and he was still getting the ball, and he was still getting the opportunities up to that stage. So the decision was to bring off Ndiaye, and okay, for that moment in time, we were still okay. But then we bring Lindstrom off, and then we saw a complete shift in the performance. We moved players around. McNeil went back on. Harrison came on for Lindstrom. McNeil went into Ndiaye's position, and Decore moved further up. And it changed the complexity of the game and where it was going. And I can understand from reaction to Ndiaye's substitution because obviously he wasn't making much of an impact. Maybe he was feeling tired and he maybe needed to come off. But with those type of players, they could be quiet for about 10-15 minutes. But if you give them a ball, they can still create the opportunities. That's the way the game was, and that's the way he was playing. That okay, he'd gone off the boil a little bit, but he was there. Lindstrom was playing really, really well, and it seems to be he was getting down that wing and getting the opportunities going forward, and we were doing quite well and staying with that formation and the way it was set up. But Sean Dyche decides that Lindstrom, oh, we'll do a swap. We'll bring on Harrison. And no disrespect to Harrison, he is not playing well this season. When he has played in the team, he's not been impactful. He's not creating opportunities. He's not the player. We saw a bit of that player last season. We saw that goal against Bournemouth, everything else, where we can see what kind of player he can be. But most of last season and also since he's come back this season, he's been very disappointing in his performances. Lindstrom was playing well enough that I felt what I was hearing that he should have stayed on, and we could have kept it at that. Ndiaye is one of those. Should he have come off? Shouldn't he have come off? Was it a right decision? But those decisions may change the game again. And what it did, it changed it up. We went further back. Decore went further forward. McNeil went on his wing, where in a central area he'd been playing really, really well, and it seems to fit him playing in the number 10 role. But he moved him back to the wing, thinking it was okay to do that. And if you look at the team, Mangala had a good game, and he had a good game for his proper first outing, and hopefully we see more from him. I don't know. We'll actually have to see. It was a good game, and again, I know people out there who listen to this podcast and think, well, is this player for Everton at this precise moment? Any player that is actually putting in a better performance than they have been showing, and this season specifically, I will say is a damn sight better than what we have seen and the performances we have seen. Yes, we go back to Bournemouth and that period, the 84 minutes, and the time that we had in that game where we played really well in the sense of the word. But I know out there are fans that say, well, we are playing Bournemouth, who look like they're going to be struggling this season as well. But that last 10 minutes, obviously, they score 3 goals and they change the team. They just shows you, it doesn't matter if they look like they're going to be struggling like we are or any other team. It's just that moments in time. But yeah, so the Leicester game, then what happens is that because we made those changes, we backed off. We seemed to become very defensive, and of course they started to mount lots and lots of pressure. There was no way that we can break away to try and keep the lead, and an inevitability happened. And then from a corner, again, the situation that this season, obviously, injuries is an issue with Brantwaite, obviously being out currently, and Patterson, who's been out for a while, obviously, but and Seamus Coleman being out, and basically our defence, and Mikalenko as well, obviously, was being out as well. But so defensively, that's because of the chopping and the changes of the defence and playing players out of position and so on and so forth. But you would think the central area where Michael Keane and Tarkowski have been playing together since the start of the season, they would probably have a you know working together, know each other what they're doing, and obviously that corner went in. Tarkowski and Keane went together, they bounced around and went in. And I will put criticism to Jordan Pickford. Some people should put it to Jordan Pickford because it seems to have lately, I don't know, he's not coming out for crosses. And there was an opportunity that when that ball came in, he could have come out and commanded his area and maybe being able to catch the ball. But he didn't. He just stood on his line, and that just caused what we saw. Again, another goal, an equaliser, and then in the end, they could have gone away with won the game, but we take a point. But for that 58 minutes roughly, it was a better performance that we saw against Southampton. Okay, it was a lot of changes in that game. It was a better performance that we've seen since the Bournemouth game. To an extent, the Villa game, I always think about the Villa game was that, yes, we were 2 up, but basically they had more possession than we did in the whole of that game. And that you can tell that where that game was actually going. So, in this sense, take a point, run away from it. We're off the bottom because Wolves are obviously they've started the season really, really badly. Um, so take the positive from that. We move on to Crystal Palace on Saturday. Hopefully, Brantwaite will be back in that. He did 90 minutes for the under 21s yesterday, and also, what was it, Saturday? And also Patterson as well, who did 60 minutes. So hopefully, he might be on the bench for Saturday. I'm guessing. I'm just making a guess on that, which is good to see. And hopefully, we'll have Seamus Coleman may be available again. We'll find out in the press conference later in the week. But yeah, we need to get a win. Palace is a massive one. We need to get 3 points. We need to show that kind of performance as we did against Leicester. As much as is it going to be good enough when we play Palace? But we need to go out there. We need to put a performance in. We need to show, you know, they need to show us as fans how that they've worked hard enough to actually get into a position that we can come away with a good result, play well, and take some positivity as we go into the next game, which will be Newcastle at home, obviously, and then in the international break. So yeah, so that's the positive I can take from it. So the negatives, obviously, for the substitutions again, game management again from the manager. That's much just my view. I know some people are very much of the thought that well, I think they're a bit flaggy. I think he made the right call on this or something like that. It's just same old, same old. But it shows when you make decisions and it's consistently making decisions by making changes like he did for the Bournemouth game, obviously, and also for this game where he makes the change to players who are playing well in that moment and playing well in the game and doesn't look like they need to be taken off. When he's done that, he's done it countless times now. The momentum is shifted and things change, and we go from a team that's performing really well to a team that's flagging and basically back on our heels and trying to stave off a defeat. And so take the point as positive. So my thoughts has always been on Sean Dyche. I've been mixed with Sean Dyche. I've always been like Marmite, a bit. You either like him or you don't. And but with Marmite, with me, is that I do like a bit of it, but I don't like a lot of it. And with Sean Dyche, I like a little bit of him. Sometimes the way he talks and the way he speaks to the to the to the press and to everybody in the meet out there. Sometimes it can be quite good what he says, his common sense. That's the little bit sometimes. And that was early days when he came in. I liked what I was hearing because previously with Lampard he was speaking nonsense a lot of the time, and it was like very confusing. A lot of what he was about the team at that point. So I was very with him to an extent in the beginning, and I can understand last season we did okay last season in a sense performance wise in a very poor league, but he did through a points deduction that we had and all the noise that like he likes to call from up above. And but for me he's not, but that little bit is only a little bit. And what has pulled me away from now to a point that I think he's not the right man for this job, and he's in his last year of his contract, is what he has said recently and how he interacts or tries to talk about the fans, how he talks about the players. He always puts the blame onto them. And I just think he's tactically, he will sometimes get it right. He'll set up the team like he did for Leicester. But his game management is becoming a frequent matter. Week in, week out, he is making decisions that are baffling. And you're thinking, why have they done that? You go to the Southampton game, as I don't want to talk about that game as much, but you bring off Beto for Ashley Young. Beto didn't play well in that game to an extent, but he was holding up the ball when it did come to him, and he was getting fouls from it. And you bring him off, and you bring Ashley Young on it, and you put a player who is 5'7" probably up front. Now, if you tactically changed to make Everton in that game a more passing the ball more and getting forward, passing the ball quickly and getting forward that way, then okay. And if it worked, great. You can actually say, okay. But what did we do in that game is we just continued to launch the ball to a 5'7" um, attacking midfielder, attacking who can be a striker in a two probably, but going to him, how is he going to get knockdowns? It's not his job. So that baffles me. The decisions in the Bournemouth game, they baffled me with taking players off who were playing well and didn't need to come off. And you instead leave it even later to finally make the decision. Then you do it in this game where basically you take Lindstrom off who's playing well and doesn't show signs of any kind of exhaustion or tired. You just take him off and bring on Harrison, who is not performing well, and then is not didn't play well when he came on. You take Ndiaye off, who just for a period of that second half tired a little bit, or maybe just was not in the game. And instead of like pulling gambling, just saying we'll leave him in, let's give him an extra, see if he can get into it. If he had said to, I don't know if he said to the manager, said, "Oh, I think I need to come off. I'm not, I'm tiring." But I don't know if that happened. Let me know if you heard that. I don't know if you heard that. If the manager, if Ndiaye asked to go off, I don't know. But those decisions are not like one-off. Oh, it just happened on one-off occasion. It's frequent. It happened last season as well. It's happening this season. We have baffling decisions, and him in press conferences or after the game saying, "Oh, well, I watched it 77 times. Whether I watched it so many times, I think I was right in the decision I've made. I felt that those players were tiring. I needed to da 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 da." And he's stubborn enough, and he commits himself, and he's reactionary. He's not proactive. What he has, or it feels like he's actually made the decision. Oh, I'm going to change him at this time to bring on Harrison at this time, and I'm sticking to it. I'm sticking to my guns. I'm sticking to it. That's just one thing, but as a manager for Everton Football Club, and if, as I mentioned about the Friedkin Group coming in to take over the football club, if when that gets approved and when that happens, when that takes place, for me, the first thing they need to look at is the manager, and they look at also the director of football, because the manager in this instance has taken us and has done his job. We need somebody else to come in to take this club further forward. Now, if the new owners want to keep him on to the end of the season, he has to start. He to make that happen. We need to be well away from relegation. We need to be mid-table, getting results, and he can and they can decide we'll leave you to the end of the season. Then we will look at a new manager. Then that can only happen if the performances start to improve on the field. But the reality is this: is that sooner rather than later, whenever that day may arrive, he will have to. The decision will have to be made that he will leave the role, and we will go after somebody else to come in to take this club, hopefully in the Premier League, to the into Bramley-Moore, into the next steps, and we can start the process of building this team up, stronger team, better players, better, a bigger squad, and we can start building gradually to get better and better and better and moving forward and going in the direction, as I mentioned about the Friedkin Group coming in. I mentioned about what my expectation would like to see in the future, where we want to be. I know it will take time, but if I can see progress and I can see us going forward, then great. But in a personal view, Sean Dyche is not that person to take us forward in the future. And if we had lost on Saturday, I think, the question will be asked, you need to go as soon as possible. He's given himself a little bit of extra time, but my personal view is he's going to leave the club anyway. That's my personal view. I think he needs to leave the club as soon as the owners are in and they put their foot under the table, look at the situation. Hopefully, they'll find the right person to bring in to move this club to take this club further forward. So it's when he goes, sooner rather than later. At some point in the future, he will go. But at the end of the day, it's all on performances. It's all on results. At the end of the day, it's a result business. And if we play Palace on Saturday and lose there, and then we lose to Newcastle, and we keep losing games, the questions will be asked about him. Should he go now? But he's given himself a little bit of a week um, to get, to see what happens at the Palace game. We'll see where it goes from there. But yeah, that's my point of view on Sean Dyche. I just think he did a job for a short period of time, but he's not the manager for Everton Football Club. He's a manager for a Championship club. He's a manager for a Burnley type team, or clubs like that lower down where they need somebody to come in and actually build a team, or a team that can be hard to beat and to actually get points and get results that way. Similar to what he's done with Everton Football Club, but Everton Football Club is not Burnley. Everton Football Club are not. We are not those clubs, and that's no disrespect to them. But we're a club that should be further up the table, should be, as I say, challenging for titles, challenging for getting to cup finals, being in Europe, being in that position. Sean Dyche is not the man for that job, and the writing is on the wall as regards to Sean Dyche. As for Kevin Felwell, we've had a brief mention about Kevin Felwell and my feelings about Kevin Felwell. Kevin Felwell, basically, he's had a period of time now. I think it's 2.5 years he's been at the club, and the recruitment, to an extent, has been patchy at best. Now we're gonna. It seems he seems to look for recruitment of players who have played in the Premier League, experienced players who can play in the Premier League and are in European clubs, and they're players that are you know are not they're not young as such, but they got potential. Now, okay, he signed Lindstrom, which we could see the best of him. And with Irabunum, who we got from Aston Villa, who's a good young player who's going to, we've seen how good he can be. So he has brought in players that hopefully will do well for us going forward. So, but the likes of Beto, as an example, um, more pay, um, players like Ashley Young bringing him in. I know it could have Sean Dyche may have said something about him, but you bring Ashley Young in, you bring in players that have flopped to an extent and just not been impactful. So his recruitment has been very patchy, but also is bringing young players through from the under 23s, from the academy, and establish them. If you look at, if we've already seen Armstrong and I think uh, I forgot the name now. Sorry, but we've seen a couple of players come through the academy to the first team and may have made some appearances in the League Cup and that, but they're way off yet from you know establishing themselves in the first team and playing in the first 11, and that's going to be a while from that point of view. So it's not just with the first team; it's through the academies and everything else, and how the young players that we do have on the books, why aren't they not filtering through? Why aren't they getting through to the first team? Only one or two here or there are getting opportunities, or they're just sitting on the bench, and they're just sitting on the bench because we've got a very small squad, and they're just sitting there for experience, but they're not getting the game time or establishing themselves like you see at a lot of other clubs, and we're not seeing that at the moment. So from that point of view, and his recruitment of players and players that have come in, some have been okay, and you know, but they've not made a massive impact on the squad. They've not shown the capability that they're going to stay in the squad and they're going to get better and better and better. Irabunum is the only one I can see at the moment that he's played. I can see signs he's going to get better and better and better, but not you know. But as I mentioned about Sean Dyche, I don't think he's going. He's all right under Sean Dyche, but I think he'll be better under a different coach. And I think a lot of the players like Lindstrom and Dye, Lindstrom who's getting had a good performance as I mentioned against Leicester, but it's Ndiaye's been the more consistent performer, creating the opportunities. He's always getting around, but the rest of the squad, McNeil shows it in flashes how good he can be when he wants to be, and then but he can be very inconsistent. But what we haven't got players do that can be consistently great week in week out. That are just going to every eyes are going to go stand up and go, wow, he's going to be absolutely fantastic. He's going to have a lot of clubs looking at him, looking at players that we have in Scotland. We don't have that at the moment. We only have potential, and it's how they're being managed, not just in the first team. If you're a young player who is sitting on the bench, it's through the academies, it's through the management and how they are treated and how they're dealt with. So yeah, my feelings Kevin Farewell is that I think his contract ends. I think he will leave his role, and there's going to be a massive overhaul, um, as from the academy all the way up to the first team, and I think that's obviously will include the manager as well. I think they'll go get hopefully the right people in the management side and also in the director of football side if they continue with that, which I think he will do, and get the right people in and start getting this club back to where it belongs. So yeah, it's a lot to take in at the moment. So yeah, that's my views. Just what I think on the Kevin Farewell and Sean Dyche. You may have a completely different opinion. Let me know in the comments below. I may be speaking absolutely out of my arse, basically, what I think about Sean Dyche and um, Kevin Farewell. But they've come to the end of their time. Personally, I think Sean Dyche is, because of the ownership issue. I think at the end of the day, he would have been gone by now. But that ownership should hopefully be resolved soon now, and hopefully a decision will be made on his management if he still will be in a job. We'll soon find out. We'll just have to keep week in, week out, and just keep to see where it takes us as we go forward. So let's look at the optimism, the positives that hopefully portion of the performance against Leicester was good. It was better. Okay, it is Leicester, but it was a better performance than we have seen of late. let's hope we can continue that kind of form and we can get a result against Palace. That'll be great. Getting the 3 points, move us away from the relegation places and start moving us up the table. Um, and the other positive across the Friedkin Group. Hopefully, we'll get an announcement on that, and hopefully, we can finally start the process of getting this mighty, wonderful football club, back to where it belongs. And it may take time, but we're going to have hopefully the right people to do that. So yes, so some positives start on a Monday. Well, long may it continue, as they say, that we can keep on going in the right direction and go upwards. That's where we need to go, and not stay where we are. Because I'd rather be on this podcast talking positively, talking about great results, great games, great performance from players, everything. Just I want to be that in that place again. But this season, obviously, it's not happened. So onwards and upwards. Thank you again for listening to this podcast. As per usual, it's always appreciated. I always appreciate the feedback that you can give me. Um, it's always great to just ramble on like I can do, talk about everything that is Everton Football Club, because they are the love of my life and I care deeply about them, and I just want them to do well like everybody else out there does. Whatever opinions that we all have, you know, we may disagree, we may agree, whatever. At the end of the day, we all want a better Everton Football Club, and it doesn't matter. And I'd rather have a good discussion with you, if you want to talk about anything and everything, and it's a discussion. And at the end of the day, we may disagree, we may agree, but we walk away, respect each other's opinion, and that's basically what it's all about. So yeah, thank you again for listening, as per usual. I'll be back next week. Hopefully by next Monday we'll have a good result against Palace and the Friedkin Group. We'll find out more about them and what's going on with that. So yeah, on that note, thank you again for listening to this podcast and watching on YouTube. Uh, I'm looking forward to speak to you all again next week. So this is the Rambling Toffee. I'm signing out. So take care, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye bye.